Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Brightworks. I have a bit of an admission to make. I might be addicted to this 4 versus 4 gameplay style. What can I say, folks? These pro players, they just wow me with every one of these games that I watch. And today, I want to show you probably my new favorite team, the TZN team. I'm not sure if these guys are official. I sure hope they are, though, and I sure hope we get to see them. May 6th, that's the 6th of next month, when the official Beyond All Reason 4v4 tournament comes about. We have the team that I'm talking about here on the eastern side in red. Claret, Master Bell 2, who we've seen some incredible plays from. Stardom, a very, very infamous, very, very good player. And Mitfit, newer player, at least new to me. Obviously not new by his skill level, but I definitely been putting out the work and impressing this commentator, to say the least. Now, on the other team, however, they are going to hold up just fine. We have Damus, a very well-respected and very, very well-known player, very friendly, and love playing matches with him. We have Repent. I've seen him around. I don't know too much about him personally, though. Caliburn, also another seasoned veteran, been around Bar, been around the predecessors to Bar as well, and Demon Dread, who's also been in a few of these other games, these 4v4s that I've casted. All a bunch of pro tier players. So let's jump right into this exciting match here today, playing on Tabula Remake. Yes, Tabula Remake 1.5. I am getting better at these names. And you can see that this is going to be a fast one. This is a relatively small map. This is usually a map for 7, I believe. 5 to 7, I think, is kind of the ideal size for this map. But definitely 4 works really well on this map. I think there's a good amount of metal, more metal than you would typically be able to have access to on this map. So I think these players are going to be well within their bounds to express their strategic creativity, if we were to label it such, and show us what they're capable of doing when they have access to that many resources. Now on the northern side here, we do see Mitvit with an aggressive push with his commander here. Pardon me. Aggressive push with the commander here. Very, very interesting. He's going to try and secure this hill, and that is going to be important because this hill often becomes a strategic, let's call it a choke point, I suppose, a strategic weak point. Maybe that's a better word for both teams, because of course this map is mirrored. So down here in the south, however, in the south, Claret has not pushed up quite as far. I mean, obviously he couldn't, right? The start spots were more back here. He could have spawned a little further up, I suppose, but that would have sort of defeated the purpose of spawning near some metal. In the middle here, it looks like it's basically going to be Demon Dread, who is going vehicles. I do like to see that. We'll clear everything off the map there, try and keep the map nice and clean for you guys. Versus Stardom, who's going bots. Now, Stardom is very, very good with his early harassment, and in fact, he does have these 2 early ticks coming out to hopefully, hopefully for him anyway, shut down some of Demon Dread's earlier economy expansion. In the back here, we have Repent, also with a bot lab, but for Cortex. Well, I suppose Demon Dread has a Cortex lab as well, but he's going vehicles. Repent with a bot lab here in the back line, so that'll be interesting, something to keep our eye on. Let's see if these ticks manage to do anything. They do evade the commander, which is very nice. The second tick maybe going to snipe the metal extractor. This metal extractor is exposed, so that would be a good play if he could sneak that around back. Damus now pushed up with his commander and has a single grunt out on the line, but Mitvit going for vehicles here, so that's going to be an incongruity. The vehicles are going to be a little bit more durable, but there is some hilly terrain that Damus can use to impart a little bit of a flanking maneuver. Now it looks like the tick was able to shoot down a mech with its little light laser cannon, but it was mopped up with a light laser tank, and it looks like a grunt from Repent managed to shut down the other one. I see its wreck right there. 4 metal. Well, take what you can get, I suppose. Caliburn now taking his first steps into the water, finally getting wet after all this time, and it looks like he's going to mostly... not sure what his plan is here, but he's building quite a lot of constructors, so definitely more of a backline role, although in these 4v4s, there's not really such a thing, right? Like, you kind of have to be aggressive on your front regardless of whether you're teching. There's just less aggressive and more aggressive, I guess is how I would put it. Now, some rovers, rovers pushing through here to the backline of Damus, and look at this phenomenal split work here. We've put 1 rover to work on this metal extractor. We've got another one working on this one. We've got a third rover rather, pardon me, harassing this worker back here that's been building this metal extractor. We're going to shoot down that in progress metal extractor, which is very nice, and harass that worker right to death. We do see a shell shock, a light artillery guarded by a few blitz tanks. Very nice. Going to be very effective against these Rocketeers who don't really have the fire rate in order to keep up with the mobility of those blitzes. We'd love to see some grunts moving around, though, harassing from the side, or maybe some Rocketeers up here on this high ground. Definitely important to keep that in consideration when you have bots versus vehicles. They cannot move up those high steep ramps very easily. I can quickly show you guys that. This is the terrain map, and it sort of shows differences in elevation. I can show you this is the vehicle traversal, and you can see the green is where mobility is unimpacted for these blitzes, and this different color is where their mobility is going to be slowed down. That was very technical, but you guys understand exactly what I'm trying to say, I'm sure. Very clever audience I have, very privileged, and I want to say that I love you guys very much. All the kind words you put in the comments, all the wonderful feedback you've been giving me, absolutely phenomenal. If you're new to the channel and you'd like more content like this, more of these action-packed games, we also take a look at the 8 versus 8 games and some of the other formats here, free-for-alls every once in a while. Take a second and consider subscribing. You know, it really means a lot to me. I'm a relatively low popularity channel, right? I got low numbers, but every member is that much more special to me, so I do appreciate it. Damus, while I've been spouting off about my lovely subscribers, has completely eradicated Mitvit's base, shut down every unit he's produced, taken out his lab, and left him in smoking, cindering ruin. Mitvit going to have to rebuild with practically nothing. He does have a constructor back here, probably gifted or maybe sent back from his lab. Either way, that's going to be crucial to helping him rebuild here. And indeed, he starts at build power. I think that's exactly the right move that he needs to go for. At this point, just holding on with his commander. Now, we can't neglect these front lines here. We do have Repent sending a massive amount of grunts pushing through. I mean, massive, right? It's all subjective in these games of Beyond All Reason. But this early in the game, that's a tremendous... I mean, that's a full army of grunts, right? So sending those forward is no small joke. He's intentionally pulling Master Bell's attention away from that front line so that he can push up with his commander and harass a little bit. Very nice move. Always consider that, right? If you need to distract your enemy, move your army around. They'll see it, they'll react to it, and if they don't, then you get to run your units by and do some damage. So really no harm done to you. It's all to your advantage to keep that in mind. We do see some light laser tanks pushing through here. They're going to focus down this constructor bot, which is really annoying. You really want to spare every single one of those that you possibly can, because at the end of the day, those are how the main bit of your expansion is going to happen. It looks like, whose commander was that just went up in smokes? That was Demon Dread's commander. Pushed just a bit too far, I suppose. Able to be sniped by some of these units from Master Bell, I'm assuming. Oh no, it was a commander trade. I apologize, I misread that completely. So it was a commander trade between Master Bell and Demon Dread. I guess deciding that trading their commanders out there would be beneficial. I think it's much more beneficial to the orange and the red team, the orange players specifically, Stardom. Forward seaplanes, that's pretty funny. Build some seaplanes in that little pond. Really worried about this push here. There are grunts to mop this up, but those tanks, I mean, they have a lot of health, so they're going to be able to take the hit and keep chugging on. That being said, there are new grunts coming out, so I think those reinforcements will be able to mop up those brutes and eventually put them down. Brutes have also stopped, which is tremendously helpful. I think they probably could have done a little damage if they were moved a little bit more fiercely, but Demon Dread was, of course, dealing with losing his commander on the front lines, and so he wasn't able to focus on that completely. Stardom using a Lazarus here to resurrect some units. That's always a nice idea. Very good for making sure that you get the maximum value out. We're also eating up these commanders, which of course is also very important. Stardom has done a great job of pushing these players back so that he has enough time to eat up these commanders. Actually gifting some units here. That was Master Bell gifting Stardom a few of his units that he was contesting north with, just conceding that he probably would be better off making new units, receding his line a little bit, and letting Stardom focus on holding his own. This commander is eaten up for all but 14 metal. Oh, that bugs me. leaving that wreck on there is basically no value left in that, but I still would love to see it get eaten up. They could always revive it, which would be scary. There was a bit of a comm trade down here, too. I must have missed it while I was focused on the other stuff. We do have Caliburn's commander taken out by Claret's, or maybe vice versa. However, it went down. Both of these commanders have been traded out as well. So this line down south and this line, sort of the bottom line mid, I guess you would call it, have both been reduced to base units, right? Just constructors, just that sort of stuff. No commanders left on the battlefield. No commander presence. This is a pretty good army from Claret. I'm a little bit worried about what Caliburn's going to be able to pump out in order to replace his army that's all fallen down here on the ground. Also, a ton of metal that Clorette is about to enjoy the privilege of owning with this Grave Robber, slurping it all up greedily and deliciously. And you can see Clorette content to just keep, incontent to keep spamming out units, going up to the T2 area. I think this is a great decision. There's enough metal here to pay for it, I would reckon. Yeah, 1,000. I mean, he's been harvesting for a while too, so it's probably. I mean, it was at least 2,000, right? Because one commander plus all the wrecks from these bots and whatnot. So definitely enough to pay for a T2 lab upgrade. Now at the same time, Damus had the same idea, I guess, pushing far enough back here. Looks like there was a comm trade up north as well. So with that out of the way, we are down to the last two comms of this game. Stardom's comm, the last for the red team, and Repent, the last comm for the blues team. A little bit of a bombing run. Didn't see too much effect, although I suppose there was a bit of damage done back here. Some metal extractors went up, and it looks like I think there was wind production back there that might have been blown up as well. But either way, not critical amounts of damage by any means. Definitely going to be able to rebuild from here. And the T2 units are out as well, so we're going to start seeing T2 units being pushed into the fray here. Now, a huge run by Clorette and Stardom, combining their forces for a combined surgical strike maneuver. Very, very nice to see. Pawns and grunts working well together with the damage per second of the grunt, with the range of the grunt and the damage per second of the pawn. Gonna catch a bunch of windmills here. I don't think that's a bad find. That's a lot of energy down the drain for Demon Dread, as well as a constructor. Always a shame to lose one of those. And these aren't done yet. They'll keep pushing back into this base. But for the meantime, let's check out the front lines here. Looks like some thugs have made their way up here for Damus, and he's going to be trying to push back this constructor. He does kill it successfully, so that's going to be nice, because it's going to be denying Master Bell a little bit of control there. And some fiends are also coming out at the same time. Now, those pawns and grunts never had any sort of response, or at least not a big enough response. So Repent has been forced to pull his units back in order to deal with this threat that has all but ravaged his main base. That's really unfortunate to see, and he's going to be forced to maintain presence from the front line rather than maintain anything on the back line. Also highlighting a bit of a weak point here. Like I said, this choke point can become very, very, very difficult to hold. That being said, these fiends are pushing through, and there's a lot of them. Definitely enough of them to do damage. A lot, I mean 3. But this early on in the game, they don't have an amazing counter. So we are looking at tanks, we're looking at blitzes, we're looking at really just anything we can in order to get those fiends down. Looks like he gets slurped up by a turret, which is nice to see. It's a little bit of metal, but also no explosion from their death. The fiends do release a small death explosion when they die normally. If you self-destruct them, that explosion is actually a little bit more powerful, which is a good thing to know. We do see anti-air bots positioned around. I do like to see that. I think it's a great way to deny early scouting, as well as those comm drops that Master Bell is very, very familiar with, very practiced at. This game did happen along the same series as the other games that were posted, that other 4v4 2-in-1 special that I posted a couple days ago. And so I'm sure these teams are well aware of Master Bell's shenanigans and trying to deny that. Now, speaking of Master Bell, down to his last unit. We do see some bombers out here. Is there any anti-air available? We've got anti-air over here, but not too much, really. So these bombers are going to put in a little bit of work. Yeah, kind of just generally bombing. They didn't have a scout, right? So they're just kind of targeting whatever they think they can. But they're going to try and break this wind production. Now, at the same time, these fiends have gotten all the way back here. There are some light gunships out, so that's kind of an interesting counter. We don't see these light gunships against fiends very often. Not a tremendous option. I mean, on one hand, it's 100% efficient, right? Because the fiend can't hit these, but on the other hand, they don't kill them very fast. So you're gonna be in a bit of a pickle. Now, Repent has built himself back up quite nicely. He's got the bot lab back up, building some build power back here. We've got the grave robbers eating up the trees to fund everything. There's tons of metal lying on the ground. I would love to see that eaten up as well. These bombers were never properly dealt with, although an anti-air tower is going to get a lucky hit. But not before they drop another load of bombs on a already destroyed constructor. So not a great bombing run there, but they can't really see what they're doing. So they're just operating in the dark for the most part. Stardom taking it upon himself to hold all of mid, essentially. Clorette has a commander all of a sudden. I'm not sure. It looks like that must have been given from Stardom, because that was Stardom's commander, but it must have been given to Clorette. I guess it's on his lane, so it was better to give that commander over to him and just let him handle it. That's not a bad idea at all. You see these fiends mopped up by these gunships. There's now enough of them that I think it's reasonable to have them deal with those fiend run-bys. You also see Lazarus here to suck up all that metal. Very, very important. One hero grave robber trying his best to, pretend to be one of the red team. Says, I'm one of you guys. Nope, gets shut down right away. Now, Stardom has lost all of his presence in mid, and it's partially to do with this it's entirely to do with this tremendous army. Of course, Caliburn has resurrected a lot of these units and sent them back in the face of Stardom, who did not have his units in position to deal with them because of those fiend run-bys by Damus. Stardom in a lot of pressure here to mop this all up before they get to Clorette. Clorette's commander, the last commander for Red, is in a tremendous amount of danger here. There's a lot of units moving towards it. Don't think there's enough, but they've absolutely scouted where that commander is now, so they need to change up the position. Because, after all, the win condition for these games is to kill all enemy commanders, so they're going to be gunning for this target. Now, that being said, they can't just properly neglect the other half of the map, right? They have to make sure that they don't get overrun themselves. Repent has to keep himself safe. But for the most part, we are going to still see a engaging front. Start on huge amount of T1 units here, T1 tanks. So those are going to be a tremendous pushing force. These pounders are really difficult to deal with, though. They stun your units, so they get all gummed up on each other. They do a lot of damage, and the only caveat is that they can't shoot very far. But your your T1 units can't really run very fast either, so on the retreat, they are extremely powerful. The pounders, that is. We do see the Resbots coming out here to mop all this up, and this is a very, very important part. They're actually resurrecting, which works just as well. But you have to make sure that this metal, one way or another, is being refolded back into your army. Because if you're not, then you're essentially going to be surrendering it to your enemy when they counterattack, and they get to mop up this whole field. Sort of a stagnation here on the northern front. We do see, I mean, he's had this air lab out for a while. He was doing bombing. He being Mitfit, I should call that out. Mitfit has been doing the aerial shenanigans here. Been doing some bombing, been doing the light gunships, all that sort of stuff. And just kind of interesting that he hasn't really been tremendously punished for that air lab, but I suppose Stardom doing a great job of making sure that if any pushes get through, he mops them up. Now I say that right as a few fiends sneak past. Are they spotted? Well, I mean, by now they're spotted, right? There's a little bit of radar vision over here, so he kind of has an idea of what's going on there. The gunships come out, and the gunships are a good idea. They're that like infinite efficiency in the sense that they can't be damaged by the fiends, but also they don't do a great job of taking down the fiends. You see a fighter shoot down one of those gunships, which is unfortunate to lose one of those like that. But we do see, looks like Demon Dread tapped out. I'm not sure exactly why, maybe just feeling like this is a hopeless match. But for whatever reason, Demon Dread does decide to tap out at this point. Kind of interesting decision. We see some more fighters trying to take down these light gunships. They get a few of them, enough to push those gunships back at the very least. And we're going to see continued pushes here from Stardom and Midfit. Now on the Blues team, we do have, let's see, we have Damus up to the T2 lab, of course, so he's going to have those T2 units out and running. He does have a T2 max, a few of them actually, up and running already. So he's going to start moving into that T2 economy, right? Repent is being pushed back on this forward front as well, and there's so many vehicles all over the place. He just doesn't have the production in order to keep up with that much metal being extracted and sent back to the front and all that good stuff. These fiends getting pretty far into his own economy, but he does have his own T2 factories, or rather his own T2 units. Clorette has set up the T1 bot spam, interestingly enough. Not a terrible move. I wonder what his economy is at here. We have 75 economy, which is really good. I wonder if he's reclaiming something or how he's up to 75. Doesn't seem like he should, but I guess he's got the fusion reactor, he's got the advanced metal extractors. Yeah, I guess he's got that economy on lock. And so with that unit support, he's going to be able to help Stardom push through here. But really, Stardom has already killed the entirety of the production on this southern side here, and we're going to see him continue to sweep northernward or southernward. I'm getting my directions all mixed up. I'm caught up in the flurry of blows here. Now these tanks can't really get up this hill very easily, so he's sort of waiting for his units to consolidate before he pushes up there. But there's so much health here, so much metal in units, that it won't really matter if 2 or 3 of them die. If a lot of them die, it can be a problem in the sense that you can start to block your own units, because of course the wreckages do have a presence, and it's difficult to maneuver around them. But Stardom realized there was a much easier target here, going after the remaining presence of Demon Dread, or rather the remaining reminders of Demon Dread's presence on this map, since he has bowed out, and starts to sweep northward towards one of the production structures of Repent. You'll notice that's one of the differences between these pros and the Joes is the pros often have multiple structures in multiple locations producing units. That way, if they get hurt in one spot, it's not really devastating to have to rebuild entirely from another. You see all these grunts borne down across this base, and there's really just not enough units here. If we look at metal total in grunts, we're looking at almost 2,000 metal, and there's just not enough metal in units for the enemy army. Metal in units or defenses, I suppose. I mean, these Sheldons are really nice. They do take down those units very quickly, but just not quickly enough for how many there are. Swarm tactics, they never fail. The Zerg Rush Supreme. Stardom now has eliminated Repent's, I guess, his western base, and Claret has eliminated his eastern base, his forward base. I noticed there that Repent handed over the commander to Damus. I'm not sure exactly why, but I suppose sort of the same reason that Stardom handed over his commander to Claret. Is that it's just in his lane, it's a little bit easier for him to deal with. But Damus taps out, he throws in the towel, and he realizes that there's not very much point in continuing this battle after the tanks have already ravaged two of his teammates. And that is going to be game. Excellent play by Stardom. He had the res bots to just continue sending those T1 units forward. Whatever fell, he would resurrect or reclaim and send back to the front. And indeed, he gets the Doing Everything award. That's always a fun one to receive. And I sure hope you guys enjoyed. We'll take a look at the graphs here. But if you have nothing else to take away from this video, make sure to tune in for May 6th and around that timeline. I'll, of course, be casting a lot of those games. I'll be recording a lot of them. So stay tuned. Remember to subscribe if you want to see some of those games come out, and all my other content I do post daily. And I hope you have a lovely rest of your day.